What's up, everyone? My name is Fred from opinoobs.com. I'm here accompanied by James Peterson, or fantastic, phenomenal, actually, I want to say, intern for the summer, just for the summer. And unfortunately, I hope you stick
Yeah,
around, James. But how you doing?
I'm doing amazing. This is a great opportunity. Thank you so much.
Well, excited to have you here to talk to Andy and Heather from Reentry Games, to talk about their free-to-play early access indie title Ember Strikes. Andy and Heather, thank you so much for joining us. How you guys doing?
Great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, we're excited to talk to you. I think there's a lot of topics today to discuss. It's one thing you guys are in early access, but on top of that, you're also free to play. So those are two models that obviously are going to are going to bring several conversations to the table. But like I was telling you pre-show just a couple minutes earlier, at OpNoobs, we're not just interested in the game itself. We'd also like to cover a little bit about your background as individuals and also what it took to put together an indie studio and work on a game that probably took you guys, let's face it, a couple years, and you're still at it. So let's start with you, Heather, because we're gentlemen here at OpNoobs, and we'll start with the ladies, of course.
Please.
Of course. Heather, what brought you to game development in the first place? I believe you're the artist in the house.
Yes, I'm one of the artists at Reentry, and I went to school. I went to the Ringling College of Art and Design in Florida, and I actually went to school for learning how to make films. And they didn't have a game design program until after I was already gone. But after going to school there, I mean, I'm from the East Coast, and I moved back home, and I stayed home for a little while before coming to New York because I wanted to stay on the East Coast. And then I happened to meet Andy and his company, and I sort of started doing some minor work for Reentry, like once or twice a week, until finally I think I had to leave Reentry because I got another full-time job, and then they decided that they loved me so much they wanted to hire me full-time.
Well, that's probably because you do a lot of the artwork, and it doesn't take long that if you Google Reentry game, if you Google Ember Strike, you'll see that the first stuff that comes up is Heather stuff, and you are talented. But I'm not gonna get to that until we actually start discussing about the game and what it took for the type of tools and all that good stuff that it took you to put together the artwork. First question is, what moved you away from the movie industry and into games?
I mean, so I always loved games. My fondest memory of games is when we were younger, my sister and I, we would go to bed listening to my dad play Aladdin on the Sega Genesis.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Hey, yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's one of my favorite memories of being a kid.
Your dad's a cool guy.
Yeah, yeah, he is.
Dad's a cool guy.
Parenting done right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And being in New York City, you know, there's not like film industry possibilities over here. So a lot of what I found was, you know, smaller studios and games, and I'm more than happy to stick with games.
Yeah, it's New York is definitely not Los Angeles, but having said this, I think the mediums are pretty connected to one another more and more. So we've talked to several developers who actually came from DreamWorks, Walt Disney Animation in Burbank. It seems that a lot of young developers work in the more than you would actually believe, work in the film industry at day and at night, convert themselves into game developers and get into game development, which as PC gamer is a good sign that our industry is up and coming. Andy, so you met Heather when your company was already built.
Well, built is a relative term. Yeah,
just like us. Fair enough.
Yeah. I mean, I had some other co-founders who aren't with us yet or anymore, but left on good terms, yada yada. But we've been around for 5 years, and we originally started as a tech company. This is back when mobile was first starting to hit big. And one thing I noticed, just like every platform, it always follows the same, which is it always starts with cool, simple puzzle games that are addictive, right? And then someone starts using the 3D processor, and then someone finally connects it to the internet, right? I mean, look at handhelds like DS. It was the predecessor to this, and so I'm like, it's going to happen again, right? Happen with consoles. So I was like, I better do this now, and I've been trying to do startups for a really long time before that, and I never took the plunge, and I was just got either beat to market or just couldn't do it because I was just exhausted. So I've been working at Wall Street for a while doing trading stuff, and it was horrible. Got paid really well, and it prepared me to do this ironically because I was doing low latency trading algorithms. So it's like
you have to explain that. We're gamers. We don't understand those terms.
It's essentially a ping war. That's what's really cool. That it's like Wall Street. If the trader hits a button and another trader hits a button, milliseconds is everything, right?
Yeah.
And so getting your bits from here to there and getting it to a server request, that's networking in game development. At least I thought it was going to be that simple. Cut a year later, after we're building out our engine and whatnot, I didn't know what I was quite in for. So yeah.
And so you quit everything and you started your own game studio, just like that.
Pretty much. I mean, just me and another guy from Wall Street. Like, we both were drunk at a Halloween party. I was like, how miserable is your life? Horrible. Mine too. And so seriously, within a month, we were both living in Brooklyn. Yeah. Writing games. It was awesome.
I actually think you're the first developer from Wall Street that we talked to.
Congratulations.
Well, I went there after working at Microsoft doing like, it was a game engine stuff, but it was kind of like I was doing video processing on the GPU. So like I got sent to GEC, for example, back in 2005. I'm dating myself now. And so I actually ended up writing a game engine inside of Windows Vista, but for video, right? I mean, like, it's not models and stuff running around, but it's just projecting video and doing shaders and stuff. So ironically, I got super prepared for it. And then I just did the networking thing. And then I did everything around games, and I had the tech experience, but I didn't actually ever work on a game. So that's where a lot of the naivety and optimism came in. So
and the first studio that you built, the first game development studio that you built was Reentry Games?
Yeah. I mean, I did some small little demos on the side with Unity back when it was split between iPhone and what it is now. But yeah, just took the plunge.
So Reentry, because you're re-entering the workforce in a completely different shape or form, is that it?
Basically, I mean, yeah.
How many eyebrows did you actually raise when you announced to all your colleagues in Wall Street, I'm out of here, I'm getting into game development? I assume quite a few.
Not really, because it was something where, I mean, like, I left because it was such a disconnected world with the way I wanted to be. I mean, Microsoft was pretty cool but still corporate, and so I kind of always started getting jaded. The second I started, having to fill out, forms for things, do mandatory trainings and things like that. And unfortunately, I just kept, because of paychecks, getting, more and more of that. And then I realized I didn't have lunch with anyone, not because they weren't cool people, but because it was just this wall, like where you just can't say what you're actually thinking. So I just left.
I had other plans in the sense that I actually wanted to talk about how you brought your team together in game development, but there's such a connecting dot here between leaving Wall Street and going into free-to-play that I want to exploit it, in the sense that typically when a young man like yourself goes into Wall Street, they're in it for the money, and you're stepping into the game development in a very peculiar way, in the sense that you're opening the doors to free-to-play. What was the motivation behind that? Why did you pick free-to-play?
Hype Kingdom. Do you guys ever play this game?
I haven't
heard of it.
I was really surprised that it didn't do better than what it did. It's basically proto 2D. Well, I mean, Clash of Clans is 2D, but it was Clash of Clans before its time. And maybe I have an addictive personality, but this is, I found myself playing this game, and I dropped probably 50, 60 bucks on it. And I was like, oh my God, these people, this is horrible. But wait a minute, I had this moment where I was like, I actually did the calculation. I was like, well, I played this thing probably 100 hours. I've given them 50, 60 bucks. I mean, I can't do the math, even though I'm a developer.
That's fair.
Yeah, exactly. And
that's fair. I mean, we spend that much on AAA games and we don't get 100 hours.
Yeah, and so like I didn't feel bad about it, and so going into it, I didn't feel like I was going to be evil. I knew I was going to make money. Like I mean, it was obvious people were already doing it. By the time I'd actually gone through the steps of actually forming a corporation, and coding, yeah, things King.com was starting to become established, and Zynga was already on the uprise. So I mean, when starting a business, you have to consider that, right? I mean, it's a dirty thing to talk about, I know, with developers, but yeah, free to play.
I don't think so.
Really
I mean, I think there's an ethical way to go about free to play, right? I mean, the model is embraced more and more, so it's a model that works. I mean, just look at Blizzard's not latest venture anymore, because they've come out with more games than I can count in the past couple of years. But free to play works. It works, but it also has to be done in a certain way so that gamers, who are a tough crowd, come on, let's face it, are going to embrace the model and suddenly not fill your Steam wall with "this is pay to win." As you designed Ember Strike, you must have been conscious of that fact, and you must have approached it in a way that you want to keep it even, you want to keep it fair for everybody stepping into the game, you want to give everybody a fair shot, and at the same time, you obviously are here to well, you got to pay rent, you got to eat food, you want to make a profit. So how did you go about that? How did you design Ember Strike with the free-to-play model so that the game was fair to everyone and yet really offered a way of life for yourself?
Well, I mean, to be honest, I mean, we're still working on the monetization side. It's really easy to add timers to everything, right? It's really easy. I mean, if you get people addicted, I mean, there's all this, I mean, they're scummy. I mean, totally. And we initially were experimenting with timers, but it's like, it creates these roadblocks where people aren't playing your game, right? And when we were initially on Congregate way back in the day, which was a great platform when they had Unity plugin, like, was so ubiquitous, but then they killed it off. Very sad day. And we learned really quickly that it's like you can do that for so long, and even your most engaged players, the people that you're chatting with in the window, which is why I loved why I love Steam, because you actually talk to people.
Yeah,
and they're like, I mean, yeah, they give you $50, and then the same thing's facing them again. So is that really fair when these are the people that are going out and telling your friends about your game and whatnot? And what we found is, there's this backlash that happens eventually where you feel kind of burnt, right? And I've played many free-to-play games. Like I said, I'm kind of addicted, probably a sucker a little bit. Unfortunately, Pokemon Go has got
That's okay, yeah.
It's got a grip on everybody right now.
Yeah, I really don't think you're the only one.
And so it's like, but at the same time, yeah, it's really difficult. I mean, we have servers right now that are running $4,000 a month, right? And
Jeez.
Yeah, and gamers don't realize that, and that's the thing you have to do. You have to take this deep breath, because no matter what, if we charge for absolutely anything, gamers will complain. That's fine. I expect it, and they don't know what it's like, like they're coming at you, in the Steam comments, just really upset about something, and usually like it's play to win or pay to win, etc. And what you have to realize is that they don't know what it takes and what really is all involved. They think it's just fun and games. Like, everybody wants to be a video game tester. I think it's the most glorious occupation in the world. But no, it's actually a lot of hard work.
Of course, yeah. So go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
So I just realized I was kind of rounding into your direct question. But when it comes to approaching the design of the game, one thing that we absolutely wanted to do, as one of my first forum posts I put on Steam actually, was line in the sand for PvP, the absolute best Ember Strike player in the world with the most widely regarded common minions in the game, as far as the meta goes, can destroy anyone with the legendary or best minions that are possibly available. And so that alone means that it makes our job that much more difficult to monetize. Because PvE, I could instantly just throw a timer on, be like revive to win, right? And the Candy Crush model, and people print money doing that. But you only get so many players doing that. And Steam, that crap wouldn't fly. Not for 10 seconds.
They call you out for that.
Yeah. So So yeah, we set PvP to level 10 minion stats across the board, right? There's another easy thing where you could just, do some of the more, tiered type things where you have waiting, so you leveling up, which still can make money, puts people together. But no, we decided to go straight ahead for skill and make it a paid content unlock model, right? Hearthstone. I mean, you can see that we have a lot of inspiration in our game from Hearthstone. I think it depends on who you ask, but I think they did a good job of it, right? From a pay to time ratio and fairness. So
they did. They definitely did. Let's backtrack a bit and go to the very basics. What is Ember Strike? Just walk somebody who might be checking the webpage, the review, and be thinking, okay, well, do I want to get into this game? How does the developer go about defining it?
That's kind of the funny thing. Like, our tagline has been always surprisingly fun, because when I explain the game to someone, it sounds like the thing that you will never play. Yeah, no, like we were at PAX, right? We show this game, and I'm like, yo, check out this game, blah, blah, blah. Oh, what is it? This, and this. Nah, not my thing. And we tried to design a hardcore match 3 PvP game that's real time. Like, the word match 3 or words match 3 alone is just, oh, run away, run away. Yet, same people will play, other puzzle games or Tetris, etc. And I grew up on that stuff. Like, I grew up on Bust a Move, Tetris, etc.
So did I,
Mario, puzzle battle games. And so we just wanted to do something with the puzzle genre to kind of, hopefully try and reinvigorate that. Like, that lull that happened with Street Fighter until Street Fighter V came out, it's happening with puzzle games. It used to be this great, like, it wasn't a competitive scene unless you're at a local arcade, but that's what we're trying to do.
I kind of agree that I feel like the puzzle as a genre has kind of gone downhill as far just in popularity. In terms of popularity, less and less people seem to be playing the puzzle genre, but at the same time, we haven't had a hit for quite some time within the puzzle genre itself. What do you think that is? Is it bad design or just people moving away from it? And yeah, what's up?
There's a big part, I think, would say stigma. I mean, I'll never say bad design about another game developer now that I've done it.
No, sure.
Understandable.
So, but yeah, I mean, it's also really hard to do. I mean, it's usually puzzles are usually casual, right? Like, approachable by smaller companies or bigger companies that are looking for volume, right, as far as content goes. And so if you're going to do something real time and networked, I mean, we face the same challenges that a Call of Duty faces. In many ways, it's even more difficult because we can't do like client-side hit detection. We literally have to decide who got the match first and do the simulation on the back end, etc. And so I think there's a lot of things that go into it where companies are scared of the market of doing something different because, yeah, I mean, I tell someone about Ember Strike and they're like, it's not my thing, and then they actually play it and they're like, oh, this is different.
Yeah, because and to me that's kind of what's exciting about your game is the competitive aspect, which is very much at the heart of it, to the extent that you guys have even put together a tournament working with the community, and we're gonna get to that. But at the end of the day, you guys picked the Steam platform to launch the game, and most puzzle games right now, like you said, you come out of the iOS industry, and that's kind of where your interest was at first in building your first company before you even got into game development as a technical guy. And then, yet when you moved into game development, I know that the game came out on Google Play in several countries like Canada. I don't think it's available in the US. Correct me if I'm wrong, right?
No.
Why is that, by the way? Just off topic, real quick.
It's really hard to even get just downloaded in mobile unless you have something that's like a ridiculous fishing, right? Where you're an indie that's got this flash pan, great initial following with something that you're doing that's really well built as far as community goes, or if you have a previous hit that you can springboard off of, or of course if you've had the game on Steam and it's mobile friendly, you can move it over. At least that's what I'm seeing. I mean, for us, it's like we would literally have to pay $20 to Facebook to get someone to test the game, because you just throw it out there, right? I mean, you have to climb the charts. It's a really hostile place to just put out a game, like, and you can't talk to the people on the other end, right? I can't.
Sounds like you need a budget just for marketing.
Yeah, like hardcore. And Steam is, I mean, it's very organic and it's kind of an untapped market. I mean, like,
because my intuition when I was asking myself, why did they pick Steam? You know, why did they not just release this game on iPad and move on? And I was thinking, well, there's a tournament, there's Steam. To me, that makes sense. I was hoping you would tell me, Andy, you were looking for a competitive scene to begin with. You didn't just want the casual personal experience of playing a puzzle game on your iPhone when you're on the bus or just commuting. You were actually looking to connect with the gaming community and giving them a thrill at a competitive level. And I'm sorry to say, still today, the PC gaming industry and Steam is still the best platform for that. The competitiveness is within PC at its heart. Am I completely off track?
No, not at all. I mean, that's why PvP is. I mean, the game was PvP before it was single player. Like you couldn't play the game without a network connection ever. Like it was day one.
You were fishing for trouble.
Yo, it's just that's Reentry. So, but that's how it works out. So yeah, no, it's like I said, to capture like a puzzle battle experience. The real-time component was something that was so important from the very beginning. I mean, did you guys play Bust a Move in the arcade?
Yeah, way back then when I was a kid. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like it has to be now, and dexterity based, or it's just not the same. You know, I mean, like I love Puzzle Quest. Obviously, like, Puzzle Quest is like the original one on Game Boy. Yeah. Lately, and sorry again, I'm not going to criticize. It's just not my.
Go ahead.
But yeah, like I mean, I love that. I mean, I'm still I like turn-based games as well. But to do what we're trying to do, turn-based is just doesn't work, and you need a decent internet connection. So
yeah,
for sure.
James, you have a thought?
Well, you know, I was thinking about why on Twitch or not on Twitch, excuse me, on Steam you would have the game, and I think you brought a good point. You really get a lot of feedback from the community that you couldn't really get from iOS without paying money and actually, you know. Having a big marketing team. So again, I think that just makes Steam having the game on Steam even better. And so is that where you had planned from the beginning, was to put it on Steam?
No, to be honest, because of the fear of the backlash of Match 3 entirely. There were some people that went ahead of us, like Gems of War. Like they seem to be doing well. They're a different game. They're Match 3, but they've been around for a while, and there seems to be at least initially positive reviews with them. So, given the struggle of actually getting a community after we lost Congregate because the Unity plugin thing, just our lifeblood. Because people telling us, you know, this sucks is great, because then we fix it and it doesn't suck anymore. They'll tell us the next thing that sucks, and we lost that for like almost a year. And so Steam. I mean, we got greenlit a bit ago, but we thought, you know, it was just we always thought we would go to Steam when we were ready. It just was really ironic that, you know, but 6 months ago I just did the Steam integration on a weekend, and I was like, well, let's just see, you know, because we can do Steam key give outs and whatnot, and it was just night and day. Like it totally revitalized the project in a lot of ways. Like, yeah, like we are primarily developing for Steam now. Mobile is actually on pause. Like we're not even putting any time into it. We will port it back to mobile at some point. That's our goal. So
yeah. So how many people on your team today? You were telling me before the show, 5 guys on 5. Well, I believe it's 4 guys and a lady, or
yeah.
Yes. So a team of 5. You guys get into early access. Are you already a team of 5 by the time you get into early access?
Yep.
And I really like the way you guys framed there's obviously always a little blurb on Steam that kind of introduces why early access. We love to look into that. So a lot of time, I hate to say it, the reason is very it's oriented for public relations. It's safe. It's and you guys started off like, look, guys, we put a lot of work into this. But this is the time to get the community feedback. was that, and I hate to get into the politics of your company, but was that an issue of contention, the timing at which you released the game into early access? Or did you already, because you always have the perfectionists who say it's not ready, it's not ready, it's not ready. And you're going to have the guys who say, no, we want the community immediately involved, and if we need to reshape the core mechanics, we're ready to reshape the core mechanics. Early access can be a divisive issue within a small indie studio. Was it for you guys at all?
I don't think so. I think we were all ready.
Wow.
But it came out of
you must work well
what
together.
A team.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
It did come from Congregate. We all really missed direct community feedback. It was big.
It's probably something you yearn for, even on a daily basis. As you get one step closer toward achieving a finished product, you immediately want to know what's the community going to feel like, but still at the same time, you've got to be responsible as a business. There is something as releasing a game too early, and that can backlash, I'm assuming.
Oh yeah, totally. And it's the biggest reluctance I have for pushing out a feature is the existing user harm. Initially, like, if we had when we had the game in Congregate, if we needed to do a reset, we would be telling people beforehand, hey, we're going to eventually be doing a reset. We did it on Steam actually when we were in beta as well. But now that we're out, even in early access, like, we're going to be rebalancing the economy for PvE. I had no idea people would be because we were so PvP focused that we're like, we want to give you a nice intro and playthrough. But look, if you look at our Steam reviews, I'm sorry, we did not mean to make the map that grindy. I swear. We just didn't want you to hit the bug on node freaking 88 because there's no more content there. I swear, that's it. So we're doing that. It's our big next release.
Something to look forward to.
Yeah.
But now that we're doing that, people have earned gold, right? People have put in that effort, and so how are we going to not break them, right? And so that's my only reluctance releasing a new feature at this moment. Otherwise, I think it's just because we're early.
It's out of respect for the time that the community is already invested in the game.
Yeah, entirely.
Okay, so at what point did you guys know the game was ready? It felt featureful, it felt well-rounded, everything was operating without too many bugs, or were you using the Steam community to detect some of the bugs?
I mean, I don't think we've ever thought we were 100% ready. I think it was from the lack of connection that we were getting. Felt that no matter what, we needed that feedback again after we got from Congregate, because we were developing blind. I mean, we did playtest videos, but it was just one-on-one, like, as in someone over here for a service. I mean, it's a really cool service that did it cheap and whatnot, but it's like, really need these ambassador level players that are just like super into the game, telling us, hey, and validating that we're not making the wrong decisions. It's like, I mean, it's something that once you got a taste of it, you kind of need that. I don't want to call it a crutch, but it really helps. And it also helps get the players to be, to help own the game, which can backfire if you.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So the early access experience is something that we as gamers are super familiar with, obviously, but what's it like for developers? For developers, you guys spend years working on a product, and then you release it. And the moment you release it, does that completely change? I'm assuming you're going to say yes, and you're going to explain why, but that completely change. You go from, I don't know, maybe you release it on a weekend, and the week before you were just coding and coding and coding, refining the artwork, making sure everything's perfect. You've been doing that for years. Early access launches, and you arrive at the office, it's Monday morning, it just began. Does that completely changes your your day's work, and how so?
Well, I guess that's one. It's a yes, right?
Yeah, I mean, it does.
Yeah.
It does, of course. I mean, it changes because you're almost immediately hit with feedback, good or bad, and so it could completely change, what you had planned for your next release. Mm-hmm. Like we had to make updates and fixes and add content that we didn't realize we needed to add because of the feedback that we were getting.
Yeah, and one crazy one is we put in a lot of work for fairness, like across the board. Like our AIs, even because you're playing on a server, our AIs actually have the same view of the game as you. Like they have no advantage, and we even simulate a ping. We isolate them in our code so that they're like over here, and like what your ping is, we make the AI follow the same because that ping race. And so,
nice.
But players don't see that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So it's just all these accusations. Like one thing that blindsided me was accusations of hackers. And we've been out for a minute. We're a small indie company. No one had hacked us within 30 minutes. I mean, please do it. That means we're probably successful. But it's just something that I just didn't anticipate. So that changed everything after early access. Like I have to address fairness constantly, and nobody reads, so I have to figure out how to put it in game. So when in fact a lot of people just suck.
But you guys must have be prepared for that. I mean, you've got to have tough skin the moment you release a game in early access. I guess the more interesting question is: were you guys ready to look at all the feedback and fundamentally change the game?
Yeah, I think that we were. We probably saw a couple things that we didn't expect. Like we just never, in our wildest dreams, could we have thought that would be the feedback that we got. But we knew because of Congregate, this was a larger scale and probably a lot more drastic, but we knew because of Congregate that we were going to get feedback that could completely change everything.
Yeah, and in a very brutal form.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
It seems like you're talking.
Very brutal.
Yeah, it's
unfair.
No, it can be, but that's what you get for putting it on Steam.
Yeah,
that's kind of what you can expect.
Here's the cool thing about it, though. And I've without naming names, because the Steam devs are on a private forum where you get to ask valid questions and whatnot. And there's always the grumblings of, oh, this user review to blow off Steam to other devs, as in like, oh, look at this. And like there's some devs that they get really pissed off at these people, and I'll just I'll friend them and I'll be like, hey man, thanks for the feedback, blah blah blah. And because I know that person was pissed off because they cared, and so many times they're still on my friends list and they just screaming at me, and I'm like, sweet bug, fixed. Thank you for testing my product for very much free and fair enough.
And that's very noble of you, because you could have just said it was free. I mean, it's free.
He's like, I've been tempted.
It's not free for me. It's free for you.
But that's the thing with, free to play, which I don't think I mentioned earlier. You get volume for PvP. Dead servers are
exactly
dead, right. So these people, I do want to scream that, but at the same time, without just people playing the game can't run. So thus is that model.
Yes, Heather, you're thinking something.
Well, I think that the scariest part of this feedback and how we have to change things for it is that sometimes the feedback comes from people who forget that it's early access. Mm-hmm. Like they think that they're playing a finished product, and so their feedback is all the more harsh and hard to sort of get to the bottom of and understand exactly what the issue is with it, because they forget or they didn't realize in the first place.
Yeah, which if I could critique early access itself, I think Valve is missing some opportunities there for helping make better games. Because and it's a little bit political to say, I'll admit it.
It's not. You don't know how many times, because we cover many early access and we've done hundreds of interviews. You don't know how many times we've heard the developers kind of pour out their heart on the notion that early access is greatly misunderstood.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's because the tool, Steam itself, doesn't lend itself to that experience, right? If you look at an early access title on Steam, it just says early access barely there. They make the click more to get more context on it. Like they don't really have like a nice roadmap set up. Like the community aspect of it is 5 clicks away. Like honestly, I didn't even, until we started actually going on Steam, I was like, oh wow, look at all these amazing features, and only the most dedicated Steam players. So like, as far as getting people to invest in setting up that context, Steam is kind of missing the boat in that regard. So in reviews, they mark early access reviews, but even though they do the most recent and whatnot up here, there really should be like an early access like review set there.
So I think that's in my personal experience, that's the problem. Just working with the the vast pool of gamers. But one of the positive things, and correct me if I'm wrong, that comes out of early access is that you start, I think, and I really think that's where the value lies. You start connecting with very smart gamers that actually get involved with your game at a level that you wouldn't have hoped for. And you start building, I mean, I was just telling you before the show, and I hope that doesn't come off as self-serving, but we've done a few competitions with developers that have sold hundreds of thousands of copies of their games, and we realized the close relationship that they had, not with the community as a whole, obviously not, and God knows even though they've been very successful in their releases, they've got walls and walls of trashing of the game. But they've managed to work with a couple of individuals which have really pushed the game forward. And there, I think, is where the magic happens, is when you start connecting with people who, I hate to say it, are smarter than the norm. And that's when I think that's where basically the misconception from a developer standpoint is to enter early access thinking that the community as a whole is going to help them refine the tool. And at the end, most of the time, the developer is going to create a tight relationship with some really bright minds in the community, and that's going to create a healthy relationship for the game itself. Have you guys experienced that with a few folks? Can you name them, and how have they helped you shape the game itself?
Well, okay, back in calling, I got to call it to Rune Angel. Like, the funny is, yes, we actually, when we're doing discussions, we use these exact people names. We'll even say, oh, that's a Rune feature, Rune Angel, who's one of our initial first guys. He was a god. He could destroy me, and it really made me really mad.
Wow.
Yeah. But no, like, yeah, those
it's
types
awesome.
of things. Yeah, and he like, it gets to the point where you, we're revamping PvE entirely. Before I wrote a line of code, before we did any art, we discussed it, came up with it ourselves. I ran it by a guy named Tacit, who recently reached out to me on Steam. Really cool guy, big Match 3 player in general. I mean, as much as I can get a thumbs up out of someone or whatnot, if you can really quickly see if someone's like, oh, that's cool, you know? Another guy, Swift Sins, he's like the ambassador of fairness. He super passionate player. Like, he'll definitely point out party configurations that, you know, we really try and balance both automatically and just from being like, you know, we're doing like individual minion design. Hey, you know, this is going to be op with this and this. Nope, he found it, right? And then he'll be like, more so report on when other people find these really good niches of party configurations that are op, right? But that's why we're in early access. So yeah, we have a roster of characters that we definitely rely on. So
yeah, and again, in my experience, the great thing about these individuals is that they don't just help connect with you, they also help connect with the community. Maybe because they're a little bit less sensitive and just emotional about the product as a whole, they're a little bit more distant from it, and they appreciate it for the finesse that they're going to find in the game mechanics. And these are people that are more easily respected by the community as a whole because they don't come off as developers trying to make money. They're gamers, just like James and myself. So that creates a real bridge, I think, and I think they're completely undervalued in the early access model. The leaders of the community who bridge the gap between what can often be a toxic community just because we gamers we're saturated by games. It's very hard to keep a player base as well interested in a game for more than not even a couple of weeks, a couple of hours, frankly. And these are the guys who kind of keep the game alive, keep the game moving forward, and help shape the game. So I'm certainly happy that you've had those experiences, and I, for me, that's the heart of early access. And yeah, awesome. I want to get a little bit into the artwork because Heather is with us. Heather, you've done a fantastic job getting us to want to click download, right? Or play now. We look at the artwork and immediately we feel like this is, obviously it's not AAA, this is indie, it's clear and forward, but the impression is this is going to be visually appealing, and we're suckers. There's a reason why PC gamers have like 3 NVIDIA's 980s in SLI mode into their rig. Like we've we forewent the mortgage of the house and we invested all our money on overclocking our CPU. The reason why we like stuff to look shiny and good. And Heather, you really like well, you definitely went that direction. How do you work? Is this just Photoshop? Because I recommend to anyone checking out this interview on YouTube or wherever to look at the artwork for it. How do you operate?
Well, so we use Maya to model everything, and then Philippe and Julian both know how to normal map. So we do a sort of base normal mapping process on the characters so that they actually look, like the material that they are or the skin that they are. Yeah. And then it's Photoshop, like the texture is all Photoshop. Yeah.
What's your inspiration as far as the cartoonish style that comes off?
Well, so from the very beginning, like from day one, it was sort of always the mentality of like, we want something that's tough but cute. And I don't know that cute is necessarily like the greatest word, but I mean that kind of.
We like cute.
Ugly enough. I don't know. Like, I think cute's a good word. When I first saw it, I thought of kind of a fusion of Pokemon and Bejeweled. I don't know. It's kind of a weird combination, but I don't know. I find it very charming and cute. I think you got something really special there.
And at the same time, it does have that oomph that I'm gonna smoke you alive type of feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was generally our goal. We wanted it to be fun and playful and also, really, really cool.
You've got that achieved. What other, can you walk us through the team, guys? Let us know who does what. Yeah.
So Philippe does the majority, I would say, the majority of the modeling and lighting. He does all of the lighting for all of the scenes, the environments, all of that. He'll do the textures as well and the normal maps for the characters. Mm-hmm. Julian does a little bit of that as well, and he does a lot of like the design. Like he designed the
orb pieces, which is very, very crucial.
He designed the orbs. That was Julian.
Oh, we call them orbs. Sorry, the pieces on the board.
Mana stones.
The mana.
Yeah.
He also designed the minion cards. When you see their cards, Julian designed those. So he does a lot of that. I will do most of the animation that you see and the visual effects.
So you okay. So So you do a lot.
Every particle effect in the world she did. So why it's all crazy and shiny and flashy is that's
hey, it looks great.
Thank you. Between all of us, we'll also do a little bit of just character design in general whenever we need something new. No. Whoever's free at the moment, we'll try and make the design for whatever we need.
And also, just to give a shout out to the community, we for a lot of our characters, we have used a lot of the Unity Asset Store assets, but we've never just ever shipped them verbatim. It's always a base as a sketch, and we've always either remodeled, reanimated, or completely resculpted them, and always have retextured them. So it's really something where it's like you can see one of our characters in another game, because someone in the comments could be like, "Oh, Unity Asset Store," and it's becoming actually like a really bad thing because people are just slapping them on and whatnot. But I'm only mentioning it for that reason, but it shouldn't diminish what is unseen thereafter, because you can pull up one of those assets and then put it right next to Ember Strike and do the Pepsi challenge, and you'll see their hand in it.
Yeah, so I really like Agnar, the hero. I really like him. I don't know, her. Is it him, right?
It's a him, and he actually, I'm glad you like him because he is one of Reentry's original characters.
Yeah, one of his, I don't know, you call them special moves or anyway, where he like throws all the snowballs and then it's really, really cool to see that when that happens.
Thank you. I'm really glad you like that one.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I don't want to keep you too long. I promise I'd get you out of here in 45 minutes, and I'm already past it. But I do have two last questions. The first one is the tournament. Can you guys give us some what led you to put together a tournament? How did it go, and where do you see that going moving forward?
Well, I mean, we've done two. Well, PAX. We every time we were at PAX, which was twice, once in the Indie Mega booth, and then once just outside. So we grew a little bit. We've always hosted a multi-day where it's like, best of the day, then you have playoffs, and then at the end the finals, and it's always been an amazing experience. You see people just casually approaching a game, and then they slowly start ignoring PAX, which they flew in for, so they could practice for the big tournament. And then at the end of the week, everybody's made friends who weren't even talking before, and screaming and cheering at the end. Even though it's really small, it was a really great experience, especially live. It takes a lot, as I'm sure you guys know,
Yeah.
to put together.
Oh yeah.
And on top of things, so we've done when we're in Kong, we haven't done one in a while. For those engaged players like Rune Angel, you'll see him on YouTube if you can look around, and you'll look at the really, really proto art of the game back when the game was entirely different. But yeah, so we've always wanted to do more of that, but it's something where it's like, well, do we make a game that's more appealing for the tournament and balanced, or do we put together a tournament now? And so we just haven't felt ready or had the resources really yet. And so we've been really trying to get it so that the community is enabled to do it. Like our last drop, we put in actual direct friend challenge where you can actually use a friends list. We have random matchmaking, but it's really something where we don't have in-game full support, right? Like we don't have LAN support or anything like that. So it's definitely something we would love to do in the future, especially since we're entirely about PvP. It's just
I mean, if you are, I hate to say, I recommend it. I recommend because it puts some perspective into the reason why you're playing in the first place. These types of games that are so PvP focused, you've gotta have a reason to get competitive that goes past your 2-hour session. If you know that twice a year there's a tournament where the cream of the crop kind of arises and gets the prize, that really brings the community together and it grinds it into the competitive scene. And there's right now, I think the esports scene, I'd call it esports, is so young that it's only affecting the mainstream markets, from League of Legends, Riot, and all that. But at the end of the day, there's true opportunities that are kind of rising from the indie scene. And I think your player base would truly enjoy it. Just a regular tournament every 6 months or so, if it's not impertinent, your game seems so well suited for it that it gives a drive. What's next?
Thanks.
What's future game development? When are you guys coming out of early access? When is the game a finished product?
When it's done, TM. Really, when I think we're close-ish. Like the shock of the PvE feedback, right, where people really wanted the single player experience to be longer, deeper, and whatnot, has just 180'd us. So we've been doing that only, and I was actually hoping to have a build out, but we really needed to do another pass on a couple things, particularly about making sure people's current values are still valuable. So that's what we're entirely focused on for this week and the next week, probably, getting it out there. And then it's something where we keep a list of things that we want to do. Like we definitely have sound work to do, just on like the basic level. But really, it's more about growth and getting a deeper meta in the game, like lots and lots more minions, because that's where I think the theory crafting and the competitive scene can actually start coming out of things.
I'm assuming balancing is a huge challenge.
Yeah, it is. But we, from the very beginning, all of our math models and and simulations, we actually have situations where we'll kick a PvP AI against a player, and those PvP AIs are actually rated against the player base. And so by doing this random sampling against players, we actually get human-directed balance feedback in our database. And so, like, we'll generate a random party or use a top player's party and throw it against different other mismatch. And so, since we're a small studio, we invested in that type of thing, like from a data mining perspective. Don't get me wrong; it's obviously not 100% the answer, because there's a finesse, and humans will always find a way through it. But the irony of that is, we had an AI that I called Terminator. It figured out how to beat players.
Right?
It found a loophole where it could do the stun lock, where players basically could not do anything. So the backlash was, if you look at the logs, the top players start getting stun locked. So guess what they did? They started stun locking everyone else. And so the balancing mechanism, I mean, it's great because at the end of the day, somebody else would have found it, but it was just something where it's like, oh God, this is how the human race gets overthrown. So
I always ask that question out of the blue at the end of an interview, just to get into the developer's head. If you could do something completely different, if you know your next project or maybe 10 projects from now, if you could do something completely different, another game, you had a big budget and you know you were on cloud 9 financially, and you could do something completely different, what would that be?
I mean, for me, it's yeah, but the zombie thing's been already. I really want to do an open world real-time sim, not ARG, but something where it's clocking what's outside, something that's on a kind of world-based event thing. The one I have a design that's, because zombies got so done, it would have to be something else, but it's basically this idea.
Talk about making yourself subject to criticism. Release a zombie game and you'll feel it.
Watch the criticism flow.
Yeah.
There's ways, though. I mean, if you look at The Last of Us, that was genius what they did. Yeah. Real Amazon fungus, basically, you know.
Well said,
what if it's this thing where it's basically an MMO reset where every month, basically, an outbreak would happen, and then the whole thing resets, and there's a slight meta progression carryover between the two. So if Ember Strike kicks around, then hopefully that they can yell at me about how much it sucks, and maybe it'll supply to that. So.
Well, Andy, Heather, James, do you have anything else you want to add? Any quick questions, comments?
I just want to say about your early access and everything. You posted on Steam a comment about it, said that Ember Strike will only be able to reach its full potential with the voice of a community of players. And I think that's exactly what you're doing right now. And as you keep moving forward, you can see the potential is just growing. And I think you really have a good game on your hands.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
It means a lot.
Of course. Well, guys, I want to thank you for taking the time to do this interview. Like I was telling you before the call, we're going to publish this hopefully, if Stylomax is feeling energized tomorrow, we'll get it up tomorrow or Tuesday, and we'll get it out to you on iTunes, YouTube, the website, and all that jazz through email, because we're old-fashioned like that. Want to thank you, Heather, Andy, and the rest of the team for putting out a game for free in early access to get the community feedback. That's exactly the type of stuff that we stand for. I know the PC gaming community is not always the friendliest, but keep heart, because we are one passionate crew, much more than console market or iPads, iPhones, and whatnot. And we wish you the very best. Anytime we can support in our humble capacity as a small community that's up and rising for the past 2 years. We're opnoobs.com, Overpower Noobs. Check us out. We do game reviews, opinions, and mostly dev talks. A couple competitions left and right, and we're just getting into the field of publishing. We're kind of excited about that. But yeah, as long as it's PC gaming, we'll cover it. We want to thank you, everyone, and Andy and Heather. Best of luck to you guys. Stylomax, you can take us off the air, and we will see you next Sunday for another dev talk with actually a Chinese production this time. I won't say any more right now, but a game coming out of China that got a lot of traffic here in the US and in North America, which is always interesting, and we'll reveal what that is on Tuesday on the website. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Fred. Thanks, Jeremy.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Heather.
Goodbye.
Thanks, James. Thanks, Stylo.
James, I'm an idiot.